Let me tell you something right now. I have seen some nonsense in my time, but few things make my blood boil like this. Coding interviews. Not just any coding interviews. These ridiculous, out of touch, LeetCode circus acts that tech companies think are some brilliant way to evaluate engineers. Let me tell you about the time I interviewed for Microsoft. Oh, yeah, Microsoft. You know, the multi-trillion-dollar company, the one that should know how to evaluate talent properly. So I sit down for the interview, and here comes this engineer, this gatekeeper of all knowledge, and you won't believe what he asked me to do next. Write a motor controller from memory on a digital whiteboard. From memory. No references, no documentation, no ability to Google, just poof. Like I'm supposed to be a human compiler with perfect recall? Are you kidding me? A motor controller from memory on a whiteboard. Let me ask you something. When have you ever seen a professional robotics engineer code a motor controller without resources, references, or documentation? When? You think the NASA engineers building the Mars rover are just freestyling C++ from memory like they're battle rapping algorithms? You think Tesla's self-driving team is out here coding motor functions with no internet, no documentation, just vibes? Absolutely not. But these companies, they think this is the standard. They think if you can't recall every function signature from scratch, you must not be good enough. You must not be good at your job. No, it means you're bad at your job. No, it's not. You're a normal engineer. Now, look, I get it. I get why these companies do it. They get way too many applicants, thousands of resumes for a single job. They need some way to filter people out. So they come up with these challenges, these algorithms exams, prove you can code on demand nonsense hoops to jump through. But here's the real problem. These tests don't reflect real robotics jobs. When you're actually working, you don't just sit there coding in isolation with zero references. You look up documentation, you test, you debug, you collaborate, you iterate, you work it out on ChatGPT, DeepSeek, or Claude. But these interviews, they're about memory, not engineering. They're testing how much random syntax and algorithms you can recall under pressure instead of testing how well you can actually build and solve real-world problems. So now you're probably asking, what should I do? Should you just avoid these companies? Should you play the game? Should you find a better way? Well, option one, avoid the companies. If you hate these interviews, if the very thought of a whiteboard test makes you want to throw your laptop out the window, then listen to me. You have options. Oh, you have options. There are companies out there, good companies, that don't do this. They evaluate engineers based on real-world skills, real-world projects, real discussions. They give you a take-home project. They let you walk through your thought process. They ask about past work. They test your ability to solve problems, not your ability to memorize obscure algorithms. Now, here's option two. You play the game. Okay? Now, if your dream job is to work at a big tech company, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, Meta, NVIDIA, so you can impress your friends and family, I get it. Okay? You can tell them you finally made it in tech, but I hate to say that. If you play the game, okay, you don't have to like it, but you got to play the game. Okay? If you want that six-figure FANG salary, that fat stock package that I work at Microsoft Flex, you got to play the game. Hit that coding interview grind. You better study your data structures and algorithms. Forget about robots. Forget it. Because like it or not, these companies aren't changing anytime soon. But let me ask you something. What's your goal? If you want a good, fulfilling job in robotics, if you want to build things that matter, if you actually want to work on automation, real-world systems, machines that move, then no, you don't need to go through these circus hoops. Find a company that values engineers for their actual skills, not their ability to memorize trivia. Now, number 3, here's alternatives to coding interviews. So how should companies evaluate engineers? How do you test real skill? Number 1, portfolio-based hiring. Show past projects, show open source contributions, show real engineering, not fake coding tests. Number 2, take-home projects. Give engineers realistic tasks, not random whiteboard questions. And number 3, pair programming, live debugging. See how someone solves real issues in a real coding environment. And number 4, domain-specific questions. If you're hiring a robotics engineer, ask about robotics problems, not how to invert a binary tree. Bottom line, if you hate coding interviews and they suck as much as I do, you're not alone. They're outdated. They're broken. They don't reflect real work. But you have to decide. Do you play the game? Or do you walk away and find something better? If you want that big tech job, start grinding LeetCode. Da-da-da-da-da. But if you want to do great engineering without the nonsense, go find companies that actually value real-world problem solving. But whatever you do, don't let these whiteboard exams make you think that you're not good enough, because how you perform under artificial constraints has nothing to do with how you solve real-world problems. So I ask you, are you trying to be an actual robotics engineer or just a LeetCode champion? Because one of them builds robots and the other builds a deep, lifelong hatred of binary trees. It's your call.
Automatic Addison.